Welcome to the Plot Strikes Back, everyone. Today we're diving into Landman Season 2, Episode 1, titled Death and a Sunset. And this episode does something very well. It resets the entire emotional landscape for every major character. You've got themes of pride, insecurity, legacy, grief, ambition, and there's desperation, and all running in parallel. So let's go ahead and break down these big themes and the character arcs that start shaping this season's direction right out of the gate. But before we do, if you want to do me a quick favor, like the video, hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends and family, hit the little bell for notifications every time I do upload a video here on my channel. Otherwise, maybe Tommy will come after you or have some words with you if you don't like and subscribe to the channel. Now, Cooper's arc starts this episode with hope, but also a little bit of fear of failure, fear of being wrong, and fear of being seen as a man who is chasing down his dreams where he can't cash in like his father has. When he begins drilling his first well, he's nervous, he's pacing, he's second-guessing himself, but the moment those gas readings hit over 6,200 units, everything changes to him. And this is the payoff of trusting the evidence, trusting the land, and trusting in himself. And that's really Cooper's theme for this season here, trusting your instincts even when no one else fully believes in you. And that might even adhere to Ariana. She might love him and trust him, but there might be a certain part of hesitation. Maybe not 100%, maybe it's in the 90s somewhere, but not 100. Not yet. So when he comes home with this good news, he obviously wakes the baby that Ariana has just finally got to sleep. He takes her on a road trip, and for the first time you see him feeling like a legitimate oil man, maybe like of his father, Tommy, when he was first starting in this business. And obviously it looks like he can be a provider on the rise to his new family. But notice Ariana's reaction. She is supportive, but she quietly asks what makes a big day truly big. There's a small fracture in their trust. As I mentioned, it's not 100%. She wants him to win, but she's not sure if this win is going to bring stability or if there's going to be a lot of risk involved. And I feel like that's going to be their tension to follow all season as he grows to become more successful after doing the math and saying $10 million a year, that's ours that we pocket. But what problems does that bring? What other problems might they have? If this one well does well, will the other spots they're drilling do as well, or might they be problematic? Because as we've seen in the first season, not everything can go according to plan in this type of industry. Moving over to Cammy here. She's a bit of a trophy wife, as they say, but she kind of seems more like a defensive mother. She has one of the most intriguing arcs in this episode here as she walks into this luncheon as Monty's widow. The woman has inherited everything from Monty from his death, and she is the person that everyone is quietly waiting to fail. People whisper about her. She overhears younger women mocking her in the bathroom, telling her this is a Serengeti, you don't belong here. People think that she should sell, disappear, stay quiet. But that's not what's going to give her that motivation as she sells Tommy. She found that motivation, but how is she going to use it? She walks on that stage and absolutely does a mic drop, kind of dominates everyone, stuns people, makes them laugh, of course, too. So, her speech isn't really the type of speech you'd think it would be. She says she's meaner than Monty. She's a hunter. She's not prey. She'll buy anyone out who underestimates her. And she reminds everyone in that room that she is now the largest independent oil producer in the region. Don't try any BS with me. Otherwise, you'll get bit. That little vacation you're trying to take in Tulum, yeah, you best not take it or else you're getting bought out. I think this is Cammy becoming a force in this story here, not as some sort of accessory, certainly not as a placeholder for Monty's character, but as a real threat in the world of the oil industry. I feel like Tommy has tried to shield her a bit, but she doesn't want that sort of protection. She wants some agency. She wants to run her own game. And I feel like that is a little tension that's going to happen and come up more throughout the events of this season. Let's get into Billy Bob Thornton's character, Tommy, who's definitely the star of this show, of course. We see the weight of his leadership and the threat of change that could be on the horizon here in season 2. He spends this entire episode juggling things based on the company, Monty's legacy, of course, his marriage, his daughter Ainsley's future, and now his father's grief, as we see at the end of the episode. He begins the episode, of course, flexing his confidence, laying down the law at the luncheon. It's just promising Danny, who's one of the shareholders, that he'll make him richer with him than he was with Monty. You just got to do this one thing that is one of the themes of this episode is called trust. Yes, trust Tommy because he will surely lead you to victory, which I'm pretty sure he will. And we'll see that a lot in this season. But underneath this sort of humor and swagger, of course, you can see that there's pressure building. And obviously, Tommy knows a thing or two about pressure. Just give him a Diet Dr. Pepper and a cigarette, and he'll be okay, though. Now, I think thematically speaking with Tommy's arc it's all about responsibility versus this identity. Everyone wants something from him, just a little piece here and there. Angela wants a different lifestyle. Ainsley wants this status. Cammy wants guidance and protection until she doesn't. The industry wants stability. His father is going to want him to face mortality at some point. And the business demands some sort of ruthless clarity because that's what the oil industry has provided us in the first season. And by the end of this episode, when he learns that his mother has died, you can see that there's a bit of this armor that might have cracked. And we're going to see how that affects him maybe in season 2. And obviously, as his father becomes more involved, we'll see what that relationship garners. And my theory is that Tommy's arc this season is going to revolve around carrying the weight of being the man that everyone depends on. And we'll see whether or not that breaks him or reforges him into a new man. I can't leave this part out because it is the moment of the show that just had me in tears laughing so hard from Taylor Sheridan's dialogue, where Tommy is talking to Danny and says, "These mosquitoes are so big they can fuck a turkey flat-footed." Hilarious. Never heard of that before, but it just goes so well with Billy Bob Thornton's delivery. A+ job in this entire show. Ainsley's storyline is both hilarious and rather honest because she gets a brutal reality check at TCU when she's talking with Greta, or Gretel as she calls her. Ainsley's lived her whole life seeing herself as this hot girl, the model, the charming one, the one who just coasts by, gets anything she wants, having her cake and eating it too. But when she comes across someone who is professional and doesn't have those things, but also maybe never needed them because of her professional career, Greta just utterly dismantles her in that interview. And you watch Ainsley come face to face with the truth that she's never had to deal with. Her charm can't replace competence forever. She lacks the common sense, as we know. She's obviously very, hyper or over sexualized still in the first season. You can kind of see that spilling over a little bit here. But when Ainsley says, "You're using a lot of words I don't understand," and Greta just fires back saying, "I'm doing it on purpose." Yes, it is crushing. I laughed, but it is entirely necessary for Ainsley's character to receive that sort of comment. It will require and force her to evolve. But we'll see if she actually does evolve over the course of the season. And the one thing I don't really approve of is when Angela, Ainsley's mother, is saying, "Oh, I knew you would get through it, and just fake it till you make it, babe." And I think that shows the generational problem here, because Angela has built Ainsley's worldview, and now Ainsley is living inside the limits of it. Angela has had a lot, obviously, until everything kind of went to hell, as we know from one of the episodes, I think it was halfway through the season of season 1, where they lost everything. But at that point, she and Tommy were able to give their kids pretty much the world, and they didn't have to work for it. And I think that's the difference between the siblings now is you've got Cooper, who is working and trying to work hard because the oil industry ain't easy, but Ainsley is just wanting to coast and get whatever she wants and go wherever she goes. And she has a walk-on, of course, so it doesn't matter what Greta says. She's going to be accepted into TCU whatsoever, but she still needed that sort of gut punch because, hey, this isn't going to fly forever. So maybe take this point as a lesson, and maybe you'll learn more from it later on. Now let's get to Sam Elliott, the legend, as TL Pops over at the Prairie View Assisted Living. You can see where Tommy gets some of his personality here. His humor, his stubbornness, his strength, his faults. You understand who Tommy Norris is more clearly. I think Sam Elliott's entrance to this episode is damn near pitch perfect, very somber. But there are some really interesting moments. Obviously, him yelling at Denise, wanting to just enjoy the sunset because life is short, and it's a bit ironic. And at least Hank is patient. Find a quick way to die. This dying little everyday sucks. And I feel like that is true. There is some honesty in that because of maybe this assisted living atmosphere, or just obviously just getting old. It does kind of suck, but you feel the weight of a lifetime. Maybe when you've gone through as much as an older person like that has. Obviously, when he gets that news from Hank saying that we got a call and Dorothy's passed on, she's no longer here with us, you can see that Pops isn't just experiencing and processing this grief. He's looking into the sunset and he's staring down his own mortality. It's a great moment. Again, it's not the most uplifting, but we've seen these types of episodes and these endings in Landman season 1 before, where there's a good bit of drama and workup that happens up until the end, and something very dramatic will occur, and it kind of just makes you think about some of these things. And I appreciate these types of themes because they are based on real life. They are things that have happened to us that we have experienced here. So, and then Tommy, once he gets that phone call, and has to go outside for a smoke because he hears the news and isn't going to have to call his pops just yet, because he also too wants to just process what's happened, because he might know what can come in the near future. And I think this is going to set up, one of the season's biggest emotional themes. The son who fears becoming their father, fathers who feel forgotten perhaps. What does it look like now that one of your parents are gone and you only have one left? What do you do? Where's that time that's spent with it? I think this arc with Sam Elliott and Billy Bob Thornton is going to be fantastic. I feel like there's going to be some hard-hitting themes here with some emotion. So really intrigued to see how this turns out. I don't want to forget talking about Angela here, because I think she does have a fear of the future and the cracks that she sees in the marriage that she hopes to fill in and pave over. And while Angela is at TCU waiting for Ainsley's interview to finish, she's thinking about her own relevance, her own identity, and what life looks like when her daughter is grown up and has kids and a family. She wants more stability. She wants some more comfort. She wants to be closer in better proximity to her daughter. And she wants Tommy to step into the lifestyle she thinks his title promises as president, being able to have a big house, being able to have this lifestyle where he doesn't have to work all the time, but he feels it's necessary. And Tommy is just really too deep into the work, but he loves doing that. And we know from season 1, he's like, well, yeah, we're getting remarried again. It's gonna be fine because I'll have to be away, and that's just what is demanded of me because I'm the president of the company now. And maybe the role will be dialed back just a bit depending on how much Cammy gets involved, but will Tommy like that? Angela's meltdown at dinner was also a highlight moment. Very dramatic. You might say it's a little overly dramatic. Really, it comes from a place of fear. And the one thing that I hated about it so much was that all that cacio e pepe was just wasted. That is a fantastic dish. You need to try it. Hopefully you go to a good Italian restaurant that offers it, because it is one of my favorite Italian dishes. I think Angela's theme here is this emotional insecurity, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episodes, insecurity being one of them, as it is manifesting its control. And this is where Angela feels her life slipping through her fingers here. What's her marriage look like? What's her daughter, her youth? Even though Ali Larter looks smoking hot still at the age of 49, what is her place in the world? And I feel like that pressure is going to explode in different ways all season, not just because, it's that time of the month or whatever, and for hormones, but as Tommy makes jokes of, I do think she wants and expects something, but we'll see if Tommy can actually deliver that or not. Talking about some of the core themes of this episode, we've got legacy versus identity. Every character is trying to define themselves in the shadow of someone else. Their past mistakes, their reputation, what's Tommy going to do, what's Cooper going to do, what's Ainsley and Angela going to do. We'll see how all that turns out as an ongoing theme. The theme of being underestimated. It's not just Cammy here because of Monty, it's Cooper, it's Ainsley, all these people who think they can't do it. They have to prove that they can. And this show frames underestimation as a catalyst for transformation in these character arcs. Grief and mortality, of course, with Pops' storyline in the news that Dorothy create a undertone that grounds this episode. We've got the cost of ambition, where Tommy's achievements come with emotional distance. Cooper's success comes from insecurity, and Angela's vision of success clashes with reality. And I think there's this other theme that is very true to some of us, where the lies we tell ourselves to get us through the day, whether it's Angela telling Ainsley that she still has pie, or Cooper insisting this well is the start of everything, or Cammy claiming she's meaner than Monty. Everyone is performing a version of strength to survive. Overall, I think this first episode of season 2 here in Landman sets the tone for a great season opener that's built on pressure, transformation, and consequences of chasing some sort of power. Every character leaves this episode facing a crossroads, and all of their paths are headed towards a certain collision. The question is, can they outmaneuver it and find a way to succeed? That'll do for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of the character arcs and the themes. If you did, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for weekly Landman reviews. I think the season's about to get really wild, and we're going to be breaking down every episode, every theme, every character arc right here in the Plot Strikes Back. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.